The letter B, 1 to 40, is what this collection consists of. It's a chapter in a book, and it's called B 1 to 40. The rest of the alphabet make up the other chapters. The chapter A is 94 sculptures. Blind Alphabet A is a chapter in this strange book. And the book is a three-dimensional book. It's a book in which one can walk around in. It's a sculpture in which you can walk around in, but it's more a book, because every one of these boxes with their lids is a page in a book. And the blind person would come up to the box and bump against the box and find on top of the box braille, and in the box a shape, and that would be a page. Now, Blind Alphabet A 1 to 94, that has 94 boxes, in other words 94 pages. So if you want to go from page 1, from Blind Alphabet A1 to Blind Alphabet A2, the next page, you just go to the box next door. Just like a book, you flip the page. You turn over the next page and the next one. But if a blind person goes to an art gallery and looks for the next sculpture, they will never find it. It could be on the first floor, it could be anywhere. But with this work, it's blind friendly. They go from box to box and they don't get lost. It's a book in which they can find their place. When I researched all the stuff I had to make, I was more inclusive. I took all the words I could find that had anything to do with form, shape and structure. I came across this word, which is on this braille here, batrachian. And I found out that Greek batrakos with an H is a frog. And batrachiform is the shape of a frog. And I hate the frogs that you get at the flea market. I hate the frogs you get at the craft shop. They're made of slimy porcelain and I couldn't make the frog. And I had to force myself to make the frog, because I thought making a frog would be wrong, because I don't like making frogs. But because it was in the dictionary, I had two thoughts: that make it, don't make it, make it, don't make it. Eventually I landed up making this thing. I still don't know whether I like this frog or not, because it's wood maybe, because you don't often see a frog made in wood, except you get these frogs which Jaco has used. The frog is used as a musical instrument with a little stick that you rub across the back of the frog, and it's supposed to make the sound of a frog, like but I can't really make it sounds a bit more like a frog than my voice. And this frog, this wooden frog with a ripple on its back, is also made in porcelain. It's made in other materials as well, and you also have a stick that you have to run across. Sometimes it's just a cylinder. I think it's called a guiro. Am I right? It's called a guiro. It has to be away from what the thing is. Now, what I mean by that, a sausage is a funny thing that has that shape. So if I sculpted allantoid with the letter A, there's the word allantoid, and I made a sausage, it wouldn't be something that looks like a sausage, it would be a sausage. It would be a sculpture of a sausage, which is where I think I've gone wrong with my frog. It's a frog, and it's a silly frog at that. I think I should have done something to the frog to move it one step away from the frog itself, to be an interpretation of a frog or an abstraction of a frog. And in the later work, this abstraction element or this interpretation or the assimilation or this became much more the thing than the frog itself. So it's a good thing I am talking about the frog, because it illustrates that I had to learn a lot by making these things about my view of sculpture, what it means and what it says and what it stands for, so that I could let my flights of fancy or my imagination or my something else take over, rather than to be literal and be studiously stuck with a remake, with a copy of the right thing. Like what we were talking earlier on, people are copying what their teachers are teaching them. I have to go somewhere else with what I make, rather than be a slave to what I read. This one I think is a bit better, in the sense that it says barbule at the top there. On a feather you have a shaft, the central part, and then you have some parts that come out of the central part, but they're very thin and small, and you can hardly see them. But then even thinner and even smaller, there are little hooks and little barbules they call, and they keep the feathers hooked together so that you can't pull them apart. And come from the Latin barba, which is a beard, so they're tiny little beard-like things, and those are those little marks on this thing. That's how birds fly. Their feathers stay together by means of microscopic barbs. Barbed wire also comes from barba, which is beard. But barbed wire doesn't look like a beard. It has spiky little things. And these tiny little spiky hooks on this, they're called barbules, which is the diminutive of a barb. Then at a certain point you come to bi. Now in Latin, bi stands for two, bi. And there are thousands of words that begin with bi. And likewise in the shapes and forms of things, there are thousands of words that describe something that has two of something. Or as is the case in this case, two little teeth, like almost a snake's teeth. So it's bidentate. That's what it says on the plate as well. So you have to interpret. I think I made the devil's fork, which I quite like. I like this fork better than the frog. And I like this shape better because it doesn't actually depict. There could have been anything, but it has a two-someness, bifariousness. That's what the word is. And Jaco's kind of fallen for this piece, because perhaps it's musical more than it's got, I don't know what. And the row of twos, bifarious. So much of blind alphabet is interpretation. The more interpretation and the more careful interpretation, the better. Interpretation with good reason. If one can just mess around and do anything, then you might as well stop. So I start with a dictionary. The dictionary is the boss, and what the dictionary says leads to things. And those things can be literal, which is a pity, or they can be abstract, which is for me more challenging. Not that it's wrong to make literal things, but I just don't like frogs. Thank you very much.